still see that men bring in this sense of leadership to a home. You know, no matter, like, women are killing it. Even look at this pocket, women of impact. We are killing it, right? But at the end of the day, a woman still wants to enter that feminine space. When she's home, there's this space where she wants to feel loved and seen and nurtured and taken care of, right? Not in a sense that makes her idle or ineffective, because women are powerful and they have a purpose in this world that is a force in itself, right? But when a woman is around a man brings in this sense of leadership, this sense of safety, this sense of, you know what, in his decision making, but he's being mindful of the woman, right? I think where many women have felt oppressed by men is this sense of that the man is making decisions that is absent of her emotions, absent of her intelligence, right? But I think when you think of the qualities of a good man, number one, he's a good leader, right? And so to be a good leader, you have to be a student of something. You have to be a student of something that brings you to a place of humility, brings you to a place of knowing how to be a good steward, brings you to a place of knowing how to love. What is he following? Who are the people in his ear? That's why, like, as a Nigerian as well, our families always say, like, you marry a person's family. And what they mean by that is whoever you're getting married to, you're also marrying the people that influence him. And so he has to be a good leader, but that is also qualified by what shapes his leadership, right? I think women should always be intrigued by, what books do you read? What are your favorite movies? What are the things you listen to? What are the podcasts you listen to? Because when you know how a man thinks, you're going to know how he leads.
Growing up, for me, I'm very traditional. So growing up, I saw my dad sit at the head of the table. He was the man of the house. He was never like abusive. Like he was very respectful. He was very dominant. And I very much admired that. Then you cut to, I get older as an adult, and I get told by other women that women should never follow. Women should always be the leader. You need to be the equal. So I went really hard. I didn't go quite hard into saying I was a feminist, but I was definitely for pro-women. And what I realized in my aging is that, I absolutely can be a freaking badass. I can be strong. I can be confident. I can be independent. And I can also feel very comfortable in having my husband lead. Yeah. And that doesn't make me weaker.
Exactly.
But how much of that do you think holds us back? Because when you say, find somebody who is a leader, do you find pushback in today's society where people are saying, like, well, so you want us to follow?
No, absolutely. I think because even the word submission is like a trigger word for women. Like, I'm not going to submit and da-da-da-da-da. But when you also look at it, like, and I think more times we need to learn about, the woman needs to understand the man needs to understand the woman. Most men will tell you their love language is respect. There's a way that we are wired that is so innate to us. And when we go out of, how we were designed, what we're met with is a lot of tension and a lot of short-lived relationships. Because I get into it from a place of, chemicals and hormones and excitement or whatever. And then I realize, this is not what will work for me long-term. You see how women will confuse sex with commitment. Right? So they look at a man who just loves the sexual energy or loves the sexual connection with the woman, and that's how they end up, getting married or whatever. But then he wakes up and he's like, I never really loved you. I just enjoyed this. Right? Because they can disconnect the two. It's not the same for men and women, right? A man can have sex without being in love. With a woman, that, she could, but it's much harder.
Yeah, I actually heard a study that men can keep having sex and not activate their oxytocin.
Oh, yes.
But a woman can start having sex and not activate it, but it then does.
It will.
So
it comes in.
Yeah.
It's how we're wired.
Yeah.
When there's a disconnect in trying to understand the person you're with, it's going to end up broken. So if a man receives love as respect, then what are you respecting? What are you trusting? You're trusting him as a man. You're trusting his wisdom, you're trusting his leadership, because at the end of the day, 2 is an even number, right? When you think about a company, think about, when a company has shareholders, right? And when something needs to move forward, sometimes the structure of the company is, hey, majority of the shareholders have to agree to this decision so that we can move things forward. Now, when you are dealing with even numbers, who's majority? Because unless it's unanimous, but what happens when we don't see eye to eye? Someone has to say, okay, I'm going to trust your leadership. I'm going to trust your decision in this. And it's not that they don't make sacrifices. That's not what I'm saying. It's not that they don't make decisions that will favor their wife and they don't agree with it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I mean is when you remove leadership, there must be a structure of leadership in any institution for it to work. In a company, you have to have a CEO. Right? In a university, you have to have a dean, right? So for any institution to work, there must be a clear order of leadership. It has to happen. If not, it's going to be chaotic. And marriage is also an institution. You know, yes, we're partners, but for this to work, at some point, I have to recognize and honor your leadership in the home.
And do you think that that's partly what is necessarily going wrong, I would say, right now, where everyone thinks a relationship needs to be equal, which means that you make decisions together and there isn't a follower and a leader. And because of that, when you come to conflict, it's hard to have a resolution.
And that's when you have irreconcilable differences as the cause of divorce.
That's so true. And in thinking about just what you're saying on like a very tiny, small little level, a few weeks ago, both of my two puppies, I got a new puppy, and both of my dogs got kennel cough. And I turned to Tom and I was like, so they're getting medication. And I was like, oh, what do we do, babe? Now, I'm very capable of thinking through it. I'm very capable of making the decision. But we've decided that he is the head of the family. And I like that. And so I trusted his opinion where I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And he suggested, and he asked me my advice. He's like, what do you think about this idea? And I was like, to be honest, I don't know. So we should definitely just follow you. And so that, I get why you can take one little thing like that. You have that day in, day out, day in, day out for 2 years and 9 months. That is the statistic. I can actually, in fact, totally see how if you don't have a leader,
you don't have that, it's going to break. Because leadership also brings vision. Without vision, you can't. There's no movement. Without vision, there's only so far I can go without getting hazy. And without that's how people wake up and they're like, wait, why am I in this? Right? Being a good leader is not about a trump card. It's not about, I'm the leader, so it's what I say. No, it's how you love. It's that you are so mindful of your wife that in your decision making, she's factored in. But there's also this understanding that, wow, she trusts me. And because of her trust and confidence in me, I could lay it off for her. Most men, when you talk to them, they're very territorial in nature, right? They're wired to defend, to protect, to care. And so that is activated when they feel respected and they feel trusted. When they feel like they have to go head to head with you, you become a roommate. Then there's nothing to protect because now we're always going head to head. It will, at some point, it's going to break.
There's something actually that I really want to address, and this is like one thing that I really respect about you is being able to have the honest conversations. My husband was out one day and he was walking through like these double doors, and he sees this woman come, walking towards him. So he holds the door open for her. And it's a little distant, so he's a little uncomfortable. He's holding the door a little too long, but again, he's a gentleman, so he's very respectful to women. The woman walks up to him, snatches the door out of his hands, closes it again, and says, I can open my own door. So to your point of, I think the leadership, it can be a beautiful thing if someone doesn't abuse it. But right now, there is a world where there are some women that perceive any leadership by a man as oppression.
And even when you say that, there are women who perceive that as oppression, that already tells you there's trauma. So if I'm seeing someone do a kind gesture, it's a kind gesture. You're opening the door for me. That's a kind thing. If I go so far to the point that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out of my way, close the door, reopen the door, and let you know I can open my own door. There's hurt layered underneath that. There's trauma layered underneath that. That needs to be healed. It's not a natural response of a woman. It's a response that comes from pain. It's a response that comes from being overlooked. And so because of that, it's defensive. So there's something you feel like you have to defend your worth. You have to defend, your place as a woman to say, hey, I belong. I'm not someone who just needs to be kept at home. And so when you boil down to what is she defending, then you look at where value has been removed. So if a woman feels like, I need to open my own door to defend my worth, and so there's something about my worth that in society they don't value. There's something about who I am as a woman that is not valued in society, that is not valued from the experiences that she's had with men in her life, that she has to go out of her way to respond in a manner that's very defensive. And so you see the woman doing that and you have compassion. That what has she been through to make her feel like she has to go out of her way to prove a point in that manner.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for talking through that, because I think that's really powerful because I really am worried about the younger generation. I don't want to sound like a really old person that's like, I worry, right? Like, but the truth is that when I heard that story, I asked my husband, how old was she? Because I was like, no way. I like almost said it, no way is this woman over 40.
Yeah.
Because there's something about more, I think, and I'm just going to put myself in this bucket. I'm 44 years old. I grew up with chivalry being the top thing. You saw that in movies. You saw chivalry. Obviously, we got taught a lot of bad things as well, but you did see chivalry. And so I was just worried. And so he said, yeah, she was 20 years old. And I was like, okay, that made sense.
And even when you think about it, it's like, even for me, right? I'm in my early 30s. Growing up, I grew up in a Nigerian culture. When I used to think of like women in the kitchen, if it was like a place of oppression because the man just assumed that she should cook. So as I was getting older, it was like passed down trauma. So then I'm thinking the moment, a man just asked me like, hey, do you know how to cook? I get defensive. Why is that the question you want to find out? And he's not coming with any harm, but there's passed down trauma. So then you have this situation where you're going out of your way to not wanting to be that person. And then I realized I actually enjoy cooking.
Once you were able to, but that's actually really powerful.
And then you realize like, wait, I'm just trying to fight off this idea that the only place of a woman is in the kitchen. I'm fighting off so much that I'm running away from something I actually like to do.
Oh my God.